Imagine being told your entire life that there is a finish line, a grand, final destination that marks your transition into real adulthood. You're told that once you cross it, you'll finally be safe, settled, and complete. But then you get closer. You look at the people already standing past that line, and instead of a finish line, you see a cage. For a growing number of people today, the white picket fence doesn't look like a dream. It looks like a barricade. Today, on The Inverse Mind, we are going deep into the psyche of the unmarriable, the people who aren't just single, but who are actively choosing to opt out of the legal contract of marriage. We're going to deconstruct the fear of lost sovereignty, the trauma of the divorce boom, and the biological reason why some brains prioritize freedom over permanent bonding. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you why "I don't" might be the most psychologically honest thing you ever say. Before we dive deeper into this, let me know in the comments what country you are watching from, because I love to see how people around the world are enjoying our channel. And while you're down there, let's get a little controversial right out of the gate. Do you believe marriage is a romantic necessity, or is it just an outdated tax contract designed for a world that no longer exists? Don't hold back. I want to see the debate in the comments, as I am not married yet myself. To understand why someone doesn't want to get married, we first have to understand why we were told we should. For centuries, marriage was a survival mechanism. It was about land, lineage, and labor. You didn't marry for love. You married because you needed a partner to help you survive the winter and ensure your property didn't go to the neighboring tribe. But in the modern era, we've wrapped that survival contract in the glittering paper of the romantic myth. We've been fed a narrative that a soulmate is someone who completes us, and that a legal document is the only way to prove that love is real. For the people we are discussing today, this narrative doesn't just feel false. It feels like a trap. Psychologically, these individuals are often high in a trait called autonomy orientation. They don't view a partner as a missing piece because they've worked incredibly hard to become whole on their own. To them, the idea of becoming one with another person sounds less like a fairy tale and more like a hostile takeover. We cannot talk about the psychology of opting out without talking about the generational trauma of the 50%. If you grew up in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, you likely had a front row seat to the great divorce boom. You saw the screaming matches, the divided holidays, and the hollowed-out versions of your parents. When a child sees the primary source of safety, the marriage, turn into a source of terror, the divorce, their brain undergoes a profound rewiring. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, begins to associate legal commitment with eventual pain. For these people, refusing to marry isn't a lack of love, it's a protective reflex. They aren't afraid of the relationship, they are afraid of the exit. They have seen that the legal system makes the ending of a love story so agonizing that they decide it's safer never to sign the contract in the first place. In The Inverse Mind, we often talk about the sovereign self. Marriage, by its traditional definition, requires a degree of enmeshment. You share a name, a bank account, a home, and a social identity. For someone with a highly developed sense of self, this is terrifying. This is known as identity erosion anxiety. These individuals fear that once they become a husband or a wife, the person they spent years building, the artist, the traveler, the independent thinker, will be swallowed by the role. They've seen their friends disappear into the we. They've seen people stop saying, "I want," and start saying, "we think." To the psychological outlier, this feels like a slow death. They would rather be alone and be themselves than be together and be a stranger. There is also a very practical, almost cold-blooded psychological assessment happening here. The fear of the sunk cost fallacy. Many people stay in miserable marriages simply because the cost of exit is too high. They've tied up their finances, their housing, and their legal standing so tightly that they feel they can't leave. People who avoid marriage are often hyper-aware of this trap. They value the ability to choose their partner every single day. To them, staying with someone because you want to stay is infinitely more romantic than staying because you have to stay. They reject the golden handcuffs of the legal system because they want to know that if they are in the room, it's because they made a conscious choice to be there that morning, not because they're waiting for a lawyer's approval to leave. Traditional psychology often tries to pathologize the marriage-free by labeling them with dismissive, avoidant attachment. The theory suggests that these people had cold or inconsistent parents and therefore fear intimacy. And while that is true for some, it's a lazy explanation for the majority. Many people who don't want to get married are actually securely attached. They have deep, meaningful, long-term relationships. They just don't see the need for the government to be the third party in their bedroom. They are practicing what we call relationship anarchy, the idea that every relationship should be custom-built according to the needs of the individuals involved, rather than following a standardized template handed down by society. A fascinating trend we're seeing in the data is the rise of LAT, living apart together. These are couples who are deeply committed, perhaps for decades, but maintain separate residences. They don't want to share a bathroom, they don't want to argue about the thermostat, and they definitely don't want to get married. Psychologically, this is the ultimate bid for sustainable intimacy. It acknowledges a hard truth, that constant proximity is the fastest way to kill desire. By maintaining separate spaces, these couples keep the mystery alive. They don't become roommates, they remain lovers. They are hacking their biology to avoid the habituation that kills so many traditional marriages. So, what does this mean for you? If you're watching this and you feel that familiar pressure from your family or your partner to put a ring on it, you need to realize that your hesitation isn't necessarily a flaw. It might be your intuition trying to protect your sovereignty. Refusing to get married requires a massive amount of psychological fortitude. You are going against a script that has been running for thousands of years. You are choosing to define your own value outside of a traditional social structure. That isn't immaturity, it's sovereignty. But here is the practical advice. Transparency is your only shield. If you don't want to get married, you have to say it early, and you have to say it often. You cannot date into a change of heart. Many people make the mistake of thinking, I'll find the right person and I'll feel differently. Maybe you will, but usually you won't. And by pretending you're on the path to marriage, you are setting a trap for both yourself and your partner. We also have to address the biological clock argument. Society tells women, in particular, that marriage is the only safe place to have children. But in 2026, the data shows a different story. The rise of independent parenting and co-parenting agreements means that the legal structure of marriage is no longer the only way to build a family. Many people are choosing family over marriage. They want the kids, they want the commitment, but they don't want the state-sanctioned contract. They are separating the biological urge to procreate from the social urge to conform. This requires a very high level of logistical intelligence and clear communication. But for those who pull it off, it offers a level of freedom that traditional couples can't even imagine. Here's a thought that might twist your brain. Is the drive to get married actually more selfish than the drive to stay single? Think about it. Marriage is often about possession. This is my husband. This is my wife. It's an attempt to own another person's future. It's a way of saying, I want to make sure you can't leave easily if you change your mind. Choosing not to marry is an act of radical trust. You are saying to your partner, I trust you to stay because you love me, not because you're legally bound to me. And I trust myself to stay because I want to be here. That is a much higher bar for a relationship to clear. It requires constant work, constant check-ins, and constant growth. The person who doesn't want to get married isn't, quote, lazy. They are often the ones doing the most work to keep their relationship healthy because they know they don't have the, quote, safety net of a legal contract to catch them if they stop trying. The final psychological pillar of the, quote, marriage free is the freedom to evolve. We change every 7 to 10 years. Our values shift, our goals change, and our personalities deepen. A marriage contract signed at 25 is a promise made by two people who won't even exist by the time they're 40. The person who opts out of marriage is acknowledging the reality of neuroplasticity. They are saying, I don't know who I will be in 20 years, and I don't want to legally bind that future version of myself to a decision I made today. This is a form of future self-empathy. They are protecting their right to grow in whatever direction life takes them. The person who doesn't want to get married isn't running away from love. They are running toward a more authentic version of it. They are rejecting the standardized life in favor of a curated life. The rings are in the shop window. The white dress is on the rack. The church is empty. And for the first time, you realize that's okay. Your worth isn't tied to a certificate. Your commitment isn't measured by a ceremony. Your love is measured by the choices you make when the door is wide open and you choose to stay anyway. Take a breath. Look at your life. Are you building a sanctuary or are you building a prison? If you've realized that the traditional path isn't yours to walk, or if you're ready to start defining your relationships on your own terms, subscribe to The Inverse Mind. We are deconstructing the social scripts that keep us in boxes and reclaiming our sovereignty, one choice at a time. Tell me in the comments, what is the most annoying thing people say to you when they find out you don't want to get married? Let's vent a little in the comments and support each other's choices. You are not a missing half. You are a whole person. I'll see you in the next one.